you, Queen, because today we're talking about how to not feel under pressure when dating. I hope some of you are old enough to catch that reference. Well, welcome to the Always Hope podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sacasa, licensed marriage and family therapist, and grateful to have you joining me for another amazing episode. Today, I'm excited to introduce to you Maria Creitz and Darenys Radich, the masterminds behind the Little Dates Club. They're just two moms of young adults who decided to do something about the current challenges within the Catholic dating scene. They're here to share about the Little Dates Club, which they started in the DC area, and insights on how to create low-pressure, fun ways for young adults to connect. We'll dive into how they're making dating less terrifying and more about genuine interaction, and explore how their approach is helping Catholic young adults navigate the tricky world of finding love in today's modern dating scene. So get ready for some practical advice and fresh perspectives on dating, and let's get into this conversation with Maria and Derenys. Darenys Radich and Maria Creitz, welcome to the Always Hope podcast. How are you doing today?
Good.
Great.
Good.
Wonderful. All right. So you guys are podcasting pros, right? You guys
Our
do
very first podcast ever.
How are we feeling? We're a little nervous, or are we all right? Are we excited?
No, you're not.
No, not at all.
Slightly terrified, but that's all.
Slightly terrified, but it gets easier as we go
Yeah.
along. All right.
That's good.
Well, I am excited to have you guys on the show to talk about the Little Dates Club. I think that you're the one that reached out to me sometime last year.
Yep.
You had listened to some of the episodes I'd done on dating, and you were just excited about those conversations and eager to share with me the good work that you're doing in the DC area. And so grateful that we could have connected and had some great conversations. And I was like, you know what, let's just do this as an interview. We just need to have this conversation on air and let other people listen in into what's going on. And so just introduce yourselves. Let us know a little bit about who you are and why you started this Little Dates Club.
Great. You want to go first?
Sure. I'm Maria. I have 7 kids, and I homeschool them. And my oldest 2 are in college, and then my youngest is 3.
Okay. So that's a big gap. What do we got between that and 7 years? That's 7 kids.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
6-year-old.
So 3 to what? What did you say? 20?
3 to 20.
Okay. 17 years, 7 years, 7 kids and 17 years. Bless you. Okay.
Yeah.
And so Darenys, how many do you have?
We have 6 kids. We
Okay.
are on the later end of things. So my youngest is 14, and our oldest is how old is he? 27.
27.
He
Okay.
was just ordained
congrats.
almost a year ago. So that's very exciting.
Great. That's great.
But ironically, the 2 of us ended up with young adults in the dating arena at this pretty much at the same time, because our second son has special needs, so he wasn't dating either. And so anyway, we arrived, and can we tell you the story of how?
Yeah. So how do 2 homeschooling moms with 6 and 7 kids say, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna help young adults date. That's what we're gonna do. How did this come about?
Oh, this is fun. This is fun.
So we were talking about setting someone up, and so and so didn't want to be set up on a date. I think you knew 2 people, and
Well, it was the a young adult group that your daughter and my son went to.
right.
Anyway, go ahead.
And we were talking about people's maybe they should be more open about dating, and I said to her, I think I have an idea to force people to go on dates. And this was by text, and I was like, can I call you? And then we started talking, and she's an action person, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna call some people now. and right away, like that day, we had the form for
within
people to
like
sign up.
days.
Like that same
They
day.
were like, okay, let's start right now. What do we want to know? So we figured out the form, and we're like, what can go wrong?
And Darenys has, like, she knows a million young people. She just knows, like, every young person in the DC area.
What?
And she has these huge parties. And
I think it's true.
All these
I'm sure it's true.
connections.
Yeah.
So it was perfect. It was,
Yeah.
She knew just what to
Well,
do.
because my son, when he was in seminary, he's very outgoing and he loves meeting people, which is great when you are a priest too. So anyways, so that was a real blessing. And he would have all these huge parties at our house. So I met all these young people. And I was always like, oh, this is so great. Maybe some people will start dating. They met at our house. And but then what I saw was so different from that. There would be like all these girls in a corner over here talking. And there'd be all these guys over here talking. These are like mid-20s. Wow. This is not high school. But or they'll be like on their phones. And I would even like drag people around like, hey, I have somebody for you to meet. And sometimes they're like,
awkward
oh, yeah, maybe later. I'm like, there is no later. It's now. Like,
let's do it.
People have a conversation like you never know. I try to get all these people interested in like dancing, and we like play music. And I'm like, I'll teach you how to salsa. Like, let's just, because dancing is such a good way to like interact, which is kind of somewhat lost. I mean, I know there's swing dancing too, but anyway. So I was finding that even among these older or mid-20s, there was not a lot of conversing. They would come to the party and talk to the people they already knew, and I'm like, if you're not dating any of those people, but both sides are like, I'd really like to find someone, I really want to get married. I'm like, how do you think that's gonna happen? You have to talk to people, you have to meet people, maybe a lot of people, to really figure out like who you click with and who wants the same things you do, and all of those things. Anyway,
so there seemed to be fear amongst the guys to approach the girls, and then maybe a closed offness with the girls.
It's really hard to, because I'm getting things. It's fun because Maria has a girl and I have a boy in the young adult, and so I get things from the guy's perspective and she gets things from the girl's perspective. But from a guy's perspective, if the girls are all in a circle facing each other having a conversation, it's pretty intimidating. Because I asked my son, I was just like, well, why didn't you go and introduce yourself? He's like, I would have to break into a circle and like stop the conversation and say, hi, I'm, and he's like, and that would have been super awkward. And who knows how well it would have been received. Maybe some of the girls would have been like, oh, that was so great. And others would have been like, oh no, that's awful. Can you believe he did that?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the world that you're in. You have these young adult kids having these parties, coming over to the house. All of a sudden these young adults are showing up at your doorstep and you're like, why aren't people mingling? Why are the girls over here and all the boys over here? Like, why aren't we just having conversations? And you're trying to drag people back and forth into actually start and playing salsa and Spanish music and getting people to dance or whatever. All for nothing. So you do a couple of these parties and then Maria, you're the one who has the thought. You're like, we could do something. So we can force them. We can force them.
What can we do to force people to date? And then, can we say father's name? Would that be okay?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
Is it okay?
A priest friend of ours.
He was suggesting.
Does father not want to be associated with this?
No, I don't know.
He's like,
we didn't ask.
Some
people have negative attitudes towards the whole idea of it.
Oh, okay.
So we've had people get very angry about the idea.
Okay.
And so
got it. I didn't realize I was talking to controversial figures here. This is this is
pariahs.
Great.
We're social pariahs.
You're social pariahs. Okay. All right. Well, we'll hold off on that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Right? So you get this idea and you say, let's force them to date. So what is then the Little Dates Club?
Yeah. So anyway, the priest comes in. He kind of helped us name it. And Little Dates the dates are short in duration. They're inexpensive. A very low stress, I guess. Low pressure. We're like, our goal was to normalize dating. Like, we have to make it normal for a guy to come up to a girl and say, hey, do you want to get a cup of coffee? Mm-hmm. And we want that girl to be like, sure, mm-hmm. without like freaking out. And like, what are you like? I actually had one of the participants ask a girl, not in the little dates, but in the wild, as we call it, had asked her, would you like to get a cup of coffee? And she said, well, what are your intentions?
Yeah.
Like, it's not that serious. Like, can you have a drink and I have a drink across the same table and have a conversation? Chat. Like, just get to know each other. I mean, you don't have to know if you're going to marry the guy.
I can see in that context out in the wild that maybe she didn't want to know. She wanted to know if he wanted a one night stand or not. Do you think it was in that context, or was it with because it was with another like Catholic kind of area like that? Oh, okay. Well, then never mind.
It wasn't on a college campus.
Got it.
Seen each other before.
Got it.
You know, maybe have one or two conversations, but it wasn't.
So his intention was he was just asking her, and she says, "What are your intentions?" And he's like, I don't to marry you. Like that's like
I mean, because I don't know, maybe girls are coming across. Well, I think it's kind of true. The pendulum is like hookup is the extreme, and then the other extreme is, you know, let's talk about marriage on the first date. And you know, so what we want to do is just like bring people, like both extremes are super unhealthy. So we just want to bring people to something in the middle that's just, you're a person, I'm a person.
Yeah, I think we had both seen the documentary The Dating Project.
Yeah. Oh, it was excellent. Yep. And for sure.
We were inspired by that. Because those the people in that movie, they were so lonely and they didn't know how to go about it, and it really helped them to have a framework where everyone knows what to expect.
Yes.
That doesn't seem to exist right now.
Right. No, it doesn't. And I think that's part of the confusion with dating is that everything's a free-for-all. Everything has to be defined. Everything is, there are no kind of predetermined parameters on things anymore. And I talk about this in Dating Well, that we need to kind of reclaim some language around a progression in relationships, and that friendship is different than casual or exploratory dating. That's different than going steady with somebody, as we used to say back in the day, when being intentional with this one person and not going on casual dates anymore with anybody else. And then that turning into engagement possibly, or breaking up, and then marriage. Like there used to be a progression that made sense, but now everything is like a situationship is the term that I've heard, you know, and exactly. Or DTR, everything has to be defined over and over again. And it's because there are no preset, agreed upon standards, social standards.
Right.
And so that's where something like you talk about The Dating Project. I love that movie for the same reason that the professor, Carrie Cronin, was that her name? I think.
Mm-hmm.
She sets out to the class, like, here are the parameters for this date. This is what it is. It's going to be an hour. You can only spend $5 or whatever it is. You can't spend a whole lot of money, and nothing more than an A-frame hug. Like there's like very clear parameters about what we're going to do, what we're going to talk about, and how it's going to go. Now go do it. All right.
Yeah.
And it gave them just parameters to work with. And it sounds like that's what you guys are trying to do with this Little Dates Club, is that we're calling them little dates. They're not like, they're not to be like super intense. You know, just little opportunities to meet people.
And we used Dr. Cronin's, we were thinking about that when we kind of created the format for, well, how is this going to work? So the little dates are an hour and you can't spend more than $15. And they're actually, I mean, people are, you know, some people like this, some people don't, but we say they're Dutch because sometimes girls go out with a guy and then she feels obligated because he paid or whatever. So we're like, look, you just show up. It's a blind date. You pay for yourself, you get yourself there, and you sit down and have a nice conversation for an hour. And we tell the participants, like, you know, spend that time trying to find out what's special about this person. What gifts did God give this person? You know, and be present to them and be a gift to them and receive them as a gift.
Okay.
And then the guys are encouraged to ask out the girl on a second date. know, as many as you can, really. I mean, and you should call her on the phone.
Well, so tell me, tell us the mechanics of that. Okay, so they fill out this form, and then what, like, how does this work? Like,
well, the form will ask, you know, obviously your name, how to contact you, where you live. So we're working in the DC metro, like greater metro area. And so it'll say, how old are you and what age range do you want to date in? And that's kind of the most important to know, to make sure that, you know, because it's from 18 to 35. So
yeah, you don't want a 35-year-old with a college freshman. Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
So we have that, and then we also added the interest piece. So there's, you know, you can put in one interest that you have, and we've tried for the matchmaking to give them at least one date that has a common interest, but we don't really believe that's like super important that you have to have a common interest. And even if you list 10 of them, the 11th one might be the one that the other person's interested in, and maybe you'll get more into it at that point. So anyway,
so they fill out these forms.
You have all this of who you can't date.
Oh, like if you already know people in the area that you've already gone on dates with, you're like,
you know, these people.
Yeah. So you won't be
never a reason. Great. You don't have to give the reason. You just have a list of, like,
that's right.
Yeah. So we don't pair them together. So then after that, they come to an orientation, and that's mandatory. The orientation, you have to come or you can't participate. So really the only requirements are you're willing to go on 5 to 7 dates for this 10-week session, whatever it is, and you can come to the orientation. Those are really our only requirements. We do tell people it's a Catholic club, but anybody who's willing to go out with a Catholic would be more than welcome to come. And then at the orientation, we talk about the nuts and bolts. And this is what I think Maria was saying, everybody really appreciates, that there's this structure around it. It's like, we talk to the guys about, this is how you plan a good date. This is what you have to do. You have to text at this point. You have to call at this point. And if the girl is really interested in a second date, she can drop her hanky by texting you. So I tell the guys, you know, if a girl texts you after a date and says, I had a really wonderful time, that's her letting you know, I'm open to a second date. You know, but I also tell them, if there's a girl that you want to go after, do it. Even if she doesn't text you, because some of the girls don't text because they're like, I want to be pursued. I don't, you know, so you never know. And lots of guys just ask the girl, they call her and they ask her on a date, and the girl says yes. So
it gets them acclimated to rejection, which is a really great, you know, thing. Because when they go out in the world, I'm not afraid. I've been rejected before.
That's right.
And they get used to approaching girls and asking them, and the girls get used to, this is no big deal. Like, we're just, you know, going on a friendship date, basically.
Yeah. So that's what we call the first 3 dates. We call them friendship dates, because part of the issue that some people have with the program is like, you're dating multiple people at the same time. This is again, words, you know, you're not dating, which implies exclusivity. You're just going on dates. So you're going on a date with this person, that person. So we call them friendship dates, because obviously, yes, the problem comes in when you're expressing physically, you know, a level of commitment that you don't have with this other person. And that's when person number 3 finds out and is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. That's so hurtful. I thought we were whatever, you know, so
so no hand holding or anything, you know, until there's an exclusive relationship established.
Okay, so people, all right, young adults sign up and they say, we want to try this out, and you have like cohorts or something, right? Don't you have like you do it in the spring, you do it in the fall or something? And so then you get these names, and everybody comes to this orientation. And from that, then the 2 of you divvy up and put dates together, and everybody gets 5 to 7 dates by participating in this, right?
And I do want to say the orientation, one is for the guys and one is for the girls.
Okay.
Because a lot of the participants are like, we should do something together. We should do something together. I'm like, well, how well has that worked out?
Because they're staring. They're already putting their list of who they want to be matched with.
Well, there's lots of young adult things out there that are co-ed, and
right.
We found what ends up happening in those circles is that they become a small group in and of themselves, a small community. And then the guys are afraid to ask one girl, because now if this doesn't work, then I don't know if I can stay here, because everything is so serious.
Right.
And then if you have a guy who's just open and he's going to ask this girl, and if she says no, he's going to ask another girl because he wants to date and marry and whatever, then he's a serial dater and you don't want to date him. So I'm like, these poor guys, like, what are they supposed to do?
Yeah.
This girl doesn't want to go out with them. Just like say no to the other 45, and just get out of there. I don't know.
Right.
Just have to turn the dial down a little bit.
Yeah.
Everybody calm down.
Everybody calm down. That's the answer. Everybody calm down. Exactly.
Yeah.
So they go on these 5, everybody, but it's nice. I mean, everybody's guaranteed, I guess, 5 to 7 dates is what you're saying, just by signing up.
Yeah.
And what that does, and I'm in agreement, I'm an advocate for this, is that whether anything materializes or not, what you're doing is you're getting reps in. You're getting opportunities in. As Maria, as you said, it's the guys get to learn how to conduct themselves in a first date, how to have conversation, know how to volley, know how to back and forth, the things that are important, knowing how to show interest appropriately, knowing how to have some playful banter, knowing how to ask questions, how to get conversations going. Those type of things are stuff that you can only really learn by actually doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it helps to give that experience for them, so that even if none of those work out, then as you said, maybe going out in the wild and dating somebody, that you're preparing somebody for the opportunity to actually meet Mr. Right or Mrs. Right.
Yeah. And I'll say, both from the guys and the girls' perspective, sometimes I talk to girls and they share with me that they're much more open and much less stressed about a date. But sometimes they'll also share, like, I went on this date in the wild and this guy really needs little dates. Like, he really, like, they're almost spoiled a little bit, because they're just like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. He shows up on time. He plans a date. He, and then they're like, oh, this guy, he needs little dates because he needs to figure it out. And for the guys, I feel like really just so many tell us they've grown in confidence.
That's so good.
Many, because they know what they're doing.
Well, yeah. So confidence comes from competence. That's what we know. That's what the research supports, is that some people are just a little more bravado, have a little bit more confidence, give that air, but they're just posing. They don't really have any sort of substance. And so people think, but we often think that confidence is something that's ubiquitous. Like, if I have it in one domain, I'm going to have it in all my domains of life. And that's not the case. Confidence is domain specific. And so it's where we have competencies is where we feel confident. So you could be very competent at finances, but you stink at knowing how to talk to girls. And so there's a lack of confidence over here, and there might be more confidence over here. And that's okay. That's how we're wired. We're not meant to be perfect at everything.
Right.
But again, what you're offering is those opportunities for them to develop some of those competencies, and then therefore be able to get more confident.
So, and that's the good news for anybody out there who's like,
amen.
Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. No, you can learn.
You can learn.
Conversation's a skill. Dating, going on dates is a skill. Showing up for people is a skill. Anybody can. I think anybody who wants to learn can get better at it.
Yeah. So what's the controversy? What's the Oh, mercy. I asked a question. Holy cow.
We've had at least 2 people tell us that probably most of our participants are not fully formed enough to be
even going on dates.
And
we're
fully formed as in like their Catholic understanding, like they're not Catholic enough, or
people
as humans. Okay.
And we're actually doing a bad thing for all these people in putting them together to go on dates. And Maria wrote the most awesome response to one of them.
We got a really angry letter.
Yeah, and she wrote such a great response. She said, I am so glad that, what did you say? I'm so glad that that my parents and grandparents didn't wait until they were perfectly formed to get together and start families.
I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, like if everybody waited, what a mess.
Yeah.
We're all in progress, right?
Yeah. And then
not finished with us yet.
Yeah. And who gets to sit there and decide this person's ready and this one's not? I mean, we all are, have our weaknesses and our issues and our past pain and whatever. And I'm just a big believer God can heal through other people, through your spouse, through your girlfriend, through your boyfriend, through the relationships that he gives you. Like he can really do that for you.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
I agree. Yes. There's a lot of pressure that we're placing on relationships right now. And there is this perfectionism that has creeped into this generation for sure. And I've talked about this in previous episodes that, again, like Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, this Gen Z, there's a marker, there's a very clear marker that's at work here, that anxiety is there and perfectionism has really kind of creeped in. And that translates then over into dating and relationships. Now, again, there is a threshold, obviously. Like if somebody's genuinely in the throes of some addiction, you're not ready to go on dates. Or if somebody's in the throes of some mental battle with depression or anxiety, then they're not ready to be bringing somebody else into their world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if they're just trying and they're working and they're getting healthy and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got married young. Just, by God's grace, I met my wife in college.
Yeah.
Yesterday, a couple of days ago, I was looking through some old pictures, and I looked at Chris and I said, "We were really young." I mean, just like looking at the picture, I was like, "Man, we were babes. We were so young."
Yeah.
But that's what it was. I was 22, she was 21 when we got married, and we figured out adulthood as we went. Like we figured this thing out. Yeah. And we're still figuring it out. Like it's not like
just when we first turned on the camera, we were just talking about this.
Yeah.
Like we when we got married, I mean, my husband and I were both grad students. I mean, nowadays probably everybody would be like, "Oh no, you need to be able to support your family and do this and do that and do the other." No, we just jumped in. We're like, "Hey, you're terrific.
Yes.
I love you so much. And God's going to help us. And let's go,
Yes.
And remember what Ben said?
Yeah, my husband said, we didn't know what we were doing. But we helped each other and we grew together. Yeah. We did have one participant, he met a girl, he went on a date with a girl, and he said, "Wow, she's really great. I've got to get myself together."
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was like an inspiration to him.
Yeah, I remember that.
I don't know what he was referencing in his life, but he seemed to suddenly feel the strong desire to improve himself. So how can that be bad?
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
So are there any other controversies here that you get, or is that's the main one that just people take umbrage to the idea of this kind of friendship dating, this exploratory dating, this encouraging this kind of let's just get out and meet people mentality. There's some folks who resist that.
They misunderstand what we're doing is the bottom line, because we're not maybe because the focus is in general in the Catholic world to have very intentional dating.
Right.
So how can you have very intentional dating with multiple people? That doesn't work, I don't think. But if you're saying, hey, let's just get to know each other, and I tell people, I'm like, you should not be walking in saying, is this the kind of person I want to marry? You're supposed to walk in and say, how can I be a gift to this person? And would I even be friends with this person? Like, I mean, people are like 50 steps ahead sometimes when they walk in to meet somebody for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, you can be intentional but not be so intense. That's
yes. That's really good.
That's the way I like to frame it. Good. Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate it.
It's good. That is good.
That's good. That's the way I like to frame it. It's like we're still being intentional. It's not like you're just throwing spaghetti against the wall and saying like, oh, we're going to see what sticks. But it's like there are skills that need to be learned. Okay, great. There are just opportunities to meet people and to get comfortable having conversation. Okay, great. And then from there, you discern. I mean, you're right. Like a first date, all you're discerning at the end of a first date is there a second date coming? That's it. That's the only question.
I want to have another conversation with this person.
That's the only question that you're asking by the end of it is, do I want to continue this conversation? If you're listening to this episode and wondering how you can level up your love life and take your dating game to the next level, then please check out Dating Well. Head on over to drmariusacasa.com and explore this amazing program that I created to help Catholic young adults navigate the modern dating scene. I take you by the hand and guide you through 19 video lessons. And the students who have taken this course are saying that it has helped them tremendously to be able to grow in their confidence in understanding what's going on within the dating scene. I understand that things are just so complicated, and so we just need to bring things back to the basics, help people understand what progression looks like in relationships, help people understand what discernment looks like, help people to understand what are red flags, what are yellow flags, what is good, depending on the different stage of the relationship that you're in. If you are interested in learning more and growing in confidence in your love life, then please head on over to drmariusacasa.com and enroll in the program today. And so the friendship dates, as you frame them, I think that's the right way of saying that, because part of what makes dating difficult now than before, I would say, is that, well, before, and the studies show this, right, that most people met their spouses in the communities that they were raised in. And so they otherwise were in some youth group together or at church together, or they worked together, but they already had some pre-existing relationship. They were already friends with this person before they moved into dating and getting serious. So a lot of the questions that you may have about somebody have already been filtered out. But now, because we're so transient and we're meeting on apps and we're meeting in new communities and we're moving the whole bit, you meet somebody and you're attracted to them, but you don't have all those questions sorted out yet about who this person is. And so dating and growth and friendship happen synonymously, and that's a new phenomenon. That's not something that existed before, where it used to be where friendship pre-existed, and then you're like, ooh, he's kind of cute, or she, I'm gonna ask her out, but now it's that these young people who are dating are dating somebody who's a complete stranger and getting to know them and grow in friendship with them at the same time that they're actually discerning marriage and dating them. And that phenomenon is new and creates a lot of anxiety, a lot of pressure for sure. Yeah. So in terms of just pressure, okay, when you introduce this concept of little dates to the people who are in your group, okay, not the people who are maybe taking issue with this, but the people who are in your group, how do they respond when you say, let's cut the pressure?
Or the
young people,
or like the people our age. The
young people, the people that are actually there, like, do they resonate with it, or how do they feel about this notion of let's cut the pressure down a little bit?
What do you think?
I think there were some who said, oh, that must be for very desperate people.
That's true.
And then there were others that were adventurous and said, you give that a try. Sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
We got 100 the first session.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So we got 100 the first session, 150 the second session, and 165 the last session.
Let's go. That's incredible. All right. Well, I guess there's a lot of desperate people in DC then.
But it's really not. I mean, there's so many wonderful.
I know. I said that jokingly. I was being sarcastic. I was being sarcastic for my audience.
But it is kind of astonishing, though, that there are girls at her daughter's college who are 23, 24. Wonderful girls, Catholic girls, go to the student center, never been asked out on a date their whole life. And I think, wow, like that says a lot, And so I think the people that are coming, they're so grateful to have something in person and that they can just come and go on dates, sit in front of somebody and have a conversation. I think, I think they're really grateful and happy about that. And many of them just do not want to do the apps. But if you go to your same youth group all the time. It's a small community, like we talked about. You would
Yep.
have to go to different youth groups every
Yeah.
to really meet a lot of people from different areas.
Right.
So this helps in that a little bit, I think, too.
Yeah. Well, at Seek, they did this speed dating event,
Oh, yeah.
and it was really cool. I was able to just be in the room and watch it. And there was like 2,000 young adults in this room, and they just did this speed dating where they lined them up, rows, guys, girls, and they just turned around, had a conversation, and then when the 5 minutes or whatever it was, 2 minutes of something ridiculously fast was up, the guys would all move down one line, and the guy at the end of the row would come over here, and then that's the way it would work. And they got like, I don't know, 5 or 7 speed dates, and if they liked the person, they asked their number, and that was it. But you just saw this excitement for this opportunity just to meet people and just feel like we know what we're doing here. That it kind of removes some of the awkwardness of asking somebody out, of a stranger, and the risk of rejection. It's like, well, we're just here. We're just going to talk. We're already forced to be talking. So let's make the best of this, and let's just actually have a conversation. Which again is just so good. It's so good.
No, the people that come, they really want to be here. And there's a funny story. There was a guy who did little dates in the summer and the fall, but he wasn't in this session. But there was a girl that he knew that he was thinking about asking out. And then he found out that she was in the little dates. And it gave him, I don't know if courage, but then he asked her out because he knew she was open. He knew she wanted to go on dates, so he was like, and anyway.
Did she say yes?
She said yes, and they're dating. They're official.
Hey, all right. They're official. And their status has been changed on Facebook.
I'm claiming that one.
That's fantastic. So what makes for a successful little date then? Like when people are, what are healthy expectations? What makes for a successful little date?
So you want to talk about it?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So I think that the main thing that makes for a successful little date, or really any date, but since we're only talking about little dates, is the predisposition of the person before they go on the date. So if you are approaching the date with the idea, what is this person going to do for me? Like, are they going to be pretty or handsome? Are they going to be funny? Are they going to give me a lot of dopamine hits because, we're going to have such a good time? Or are you approaching the date, I'm here to give myself as a gift and to receive the other person as a gift. I am here not to be so self-focused, but to focus on the other person. Like, what's special about this person? I think if both people are outward focused, you have a much better chance of making a connection than if you're in your head evaluating whether this person is matching or doing for you what you thought they should, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what you're saying is what makes it successful is the expectations that we go into it. And if we have the right expectations of, this person isn't just here to serve me or make me feel good, but this person is a person made in the image and likeness of God. If my job is actually to begin exploring that and understanding who that is, then it changes the paradigm of it. And so if I go into this other focused,
and sometimes you have to make an act of the will, because it's very easy to get back, as you're on the date, like, oh, well, this happened or that happened, but bring yourself back to like, no, what can I do for, how can I be present to this person? It's for me.
Yeah. But I can see certainly that people go into dates wanting to know if there's going to be some type of connection and if there's a potential for companionship. And so I hear what you're saying, which is like, go into it with the right attitude. Let's be open, have a nice discussion, go from there. But if it is where it's clunky, and I think that Darenys, you had shared this before, that maybe it's sometimes that some of the men in the Little Dates Club are struggling with the words or the language or know how to ask questions. And the women are reporting back saying like, we're actually like having to pry them to say things. Like, yeah. So and again, that's not all the situations, but in certain circumstances, I can understand a woman being gracious in that and wanting to be open and listening, but walking away from that, probably feeling like, this won't get a second date. And that's okay.
And that's totally okay too. That's totally okay too. I think what I want to tell people what I'm trying to kind of fight against is the idea of making judgments too quickly. I have a lot of, I think it happens with guys too, although they don't share it maybe as much with me, but the girls share it. They'll go on the first date and they're like, it's okay. And then, there was nothing wrong. They had a nice time, but they kind of are not as open to the second date. Or even a guy who's like, oh, the second date, like this happened or this happened. I don't know. I'm not sure. And so I'm like, just try again. And I've had many cases where on the third date is when they really figured out, like, oh, we were both more relaxed. And now I really know what they're like. And I really like this person versus I just don't want people to dismiss people too quickly, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. It's only an hour. The date, initial date is only an hour. And people might be nervous, And
it takes time because people aren't meeting people at work or in other communities. And I just have I'm just thinking about college, for example. You get to know somebody in different settings and classes, and you kind of get a sense of them over time. And you can make a judgment about whether you would be compatible with that person, but you have some time with them. Whereas if you are making a decision based on a first date that everybody's nervous here, nervous there, nervous, maybe they laugh a lot,
right,
or they do whatever, then it might be too soon to really make or to really know who that person really is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And we do tell the guys at the orientation, be ready to lead the date, have questions. It's your job to lead the date and make sure that the girl feels safe and relaxed.
Yeah, so she can relax.
Yeah.
So how do you coach guys through that?
What do you mean? By telling them, or like if they call me later?
We give some examples of questions that might be, more open-ended questions that they can ask. That
we tell them no, yes or no questions. Try to come up with questions. Christina Pineda, on one of her interviews on a podcast or something, talked about like getting a note card and writing 5 good open-ended questions, and if you get totally stuck, you do that before the date, and if you get stuck, you excuse yourself and you go to the bathroom and you and you read another great question, and then you walk back to the table and you keep going.
You have it written on the palm of your hand and you're like
oh yes, what about
exactly,
what about so
okay,
what are the tips? Be on time, be early, make sure that this is for the guys. Plan the date,
know where you're going, know about parking, know if it's difficult to park, if be a gentleman. Girls want you to be a gentleman. Open the door for them when you get to the place. I don't know, shave if you need to shave, get a haircut, like look presentable. We talk about not showing up in gym clothes.
Don't look at your phone.
Oh yeah, no phones for anybody. They're like completely forbidden. Not that all the people actually follow that, but
always listen to us.
They don't always listen to us, but those are the rules. The no phones.
Those are the rules.
Those are the rules. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what else, Maria, what else do you think makes for a successful little date?
Well, from the girls' part, she should show some warmth to set the guy at ease, because he has more of the responsibility for the date. So if she can show warmth, that'll encourage him and, take the pressure off a little bit. Since you're going Dutch on these dates, don't go and get yourself a big meal. The date shouldn't be at a restaurant where you're going to be like ordering yourself a big meal and then the girl is just there with her glass of water or whatever.
Right.
Like
that's happened.
Some people have done that and it's super awkward. What else? Can you think of anything else?
That's good. All right. Well, what do girls, you've been talking about the guys a little bit in terms of their best practices and tips and suggestions for the gentlemen. What other tips and suggestions do you give to the women? You talked about being warm and open, not being on the phone. What else do you coach the girls in that maybe you're hearing they're kind of lacking in?
When I talk to them, I find that a lot of times, not so much just going on the first little date, but deciding to go on subsequent dates, they are very worried about leading people on, and they are very maybe we could use the word anxious, I'm not sure, but what it seems to me is they kind of get stuck in their head a little bit. So just replaying like, well, do I like him this much? Am I sure? Am I not sure?
Oh, sure.
I think it was the Christina Pineda and her sister from Matchmakers in the City. They talk about sudden repulsion syndrome, which I think is hilarious. I think it's great. So they say you should keep going on until you reach sudden repulsion syndrome. Like you would rather be in bed under the covers reading a book than spend another minute in this guy's time. Like then okay, yeah. But I think, like I was saying before, like the openness, like I think it takes time, and people are quick to be like, okay, this isn't it. This isn't it. This is, without giving a person the opportunity to spend that time. And we asked the guys from the summer session, we said, what do you wish the girls knew that you don't think they do? And they said, don't be afraid to lead us on. Wow. They said that. They said, we want to take you out. We want to go on another date. Give us a chance. These guys, the girls are like, well, but then they're paying on the second date. But that's okay. They're willing to take that risk. They think you're worth it. So give them another chance. And then I think it goes better, because a guy who's been on 3 dates with a girl and she decides for someone else or just decides against him that it isn't going to work, he feels like she really gave me a chance. She really knew me. She was saying no to not just to my nervous, awkward self on the first date. She was saying, I don't think we're a match, but I appreciate I really took the time, So I think
that's an important distinction, because anxiety does make us see things a little bit differently than when we're actually in a relaxed state. Yeah. And if we're only making those decisions based out of that sympathetic fight or flight response, that fear response, or that defensiveness, then it's like we're never actually going to move forward. But if you can settle and then see it for what it is, and then you make a judgment. It's like if you're in a place of rest and the relationship is still awkward and there's no conversation that's free flowing and you're not having a good time and you're not compatible with things, then okay, done. Done. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
But if you're at rest and you're having fun and it's going good, then that's a different conversation. That's a different thing to discern.
Sure.
So just giving space for time to emerge and not feeling so much pressure, like you said, I don't want to lead people on. And I don't know, is it just that language comes from somewhere, right? I mean, it's not like every young adult Catholic girl, like all of a sudden came up with the same idea. Like that, I don't know if it's like speakers or something, like we as a church, have we put too much pressure on people? Have we unintentionally said things like that maybe have gotten misconstrued or locked into people's consciousness now, that's like creating so much like intentionality, it's like, calm down.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I don't either. Just asking. All right. Yeah. Okay. So if somebody is listening to this and maybe they're like, I'm a homeschooling mom and I have young adults, but I don't live in DC. This model seems pretty easy. Is it a lot of work on your side? Or if somebody's interested in replicating, the answer is yes. Okay. If somebody's interested in replicating something like this, what would be best practices here that you would encourage?
First, retire.
And start charging.
Yeah. No, I think it's kind of a lot of work. I think if a few people come together to do it, it could work.
Yeah.
What is the hardest part? It's really kind of goes in spurts. So the hardest part
is the hardest.
So yeah, the orientation and the matching. So you have about 3 weeks or so that are pretty intense with orientations and making the matches. But then once that happens, you just kind of send them off on their little dates. I do try to, because I have more time than Maria.
That takes hours. The matching takes hours.
I can imagine that takes a long time. Yeah.
But I try to reach out at some point in the session. Hey, how are your dates going? And sometimes they'll say, oh, I haven't heard back from so-and-so. So we try to give the guys a deadline of about 3 or 4 weeks, contact all the girls and set up the dates, just have them set up so everybody knows for their calendar if they want to go on second or third dates when they can do it. But in terms of time, other than that, there's not, we would be happy to share resources. We have the orientation all written out and all the resources we give the participants and everything, and the guidelines. And
then my husband wrote a little program, tech support or that like does all the potential matches. So you plug in the people and then it'll come up like, with some people have 20 potential.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. Wow. And then we can turn it on and off. But yeah.
And what is he based that on? Like in terms of just matches, what people say, and kind of commonalities?
Age and age range. So this guy is 25, his age range is 24 to 26. So any girl who's 24 to 26.
Got it. So just a simple little program.
Simple. Yeah. So we both love paper and pencils.
Yeah.
We're very old school. And so everybody has a card. And so when it's time for matching, we put all the girls up on the wall. We tape them all up on the wall, all their cards. And then we have Post-it notes for each of the guys and we just assign dates. Yeah. And then we go back to the program and we put them all in.
Like age groups. Like the girls are in their groups. So then you just have to find, oh, no, she can't date this one because he's 28. She can only go up to 27.
Yeah.
Even though he'll go down to, 20.
Yeah.
So it's
do you know most of the people, or do you know a good portion of them, or no, you don't know any of them?
No.
Okay.
When we first did it, we thought, oh, it'll probably just be all the people we know, and it'll just be fun for them to be on a date instead of like in a group. So we thought maybe 30 people, 40 people. But then when we got 100 people from all over the place, we don't know any of these people. So it was,
we were encouraged to raise the age because it
was 30.
30.
So now
it's 35.
So
you may want to bump that up again also. Get to 40.
It's just gonna get bigger and bigger. I don't know.
Well, as you say that, truthfully, my only concern would be like, is there a vetting process or something of these people, or you're like, you set the parameters and they better establish those parameters, like.
Well, it's word of mouth, so we don't just put it up on the internet on a website for anyone to sign up. It has to get passed on, like a friend of a friend or whatever.
Got it.
So we do. Everybody does sign a safety statement, or they click on the box or whatever when they submit their form, just to let them know that we don't know these people personally. So whatever boundaries you have in place for meeting someone new, just keep those.
Right. That's right.
This is basically anyone you could meet at a young adult group.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, keep your GPS trackers on, and if
have your girlfriend sit at the other table.
Have your girlfriend sit at the other table. That was something I just learned in this last year as a thing. I didn't realize that that's. Yeah, it's a thing. That's a real thing. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So how's session 3 going thus far? We're kind of in the middle of this, or is it?
Yeah, it's wrapping up at the end of April.
Okay.
Mid-April, the next session signups come out, and
And when
I've
do you?
already had like 20 people.
Wow.
I want to join. I want to join.
In the fall, you do it in the fall again? Is that how you do it?
Yeah. So we do
in the
summer. So
In the
the
summer.
summer.
Okay.
So generally we keep the signups open for 6 weeks, and then the session runs for 10 weeks.
Got it.
And then we don't do a winter session because Thanksgiving and Christmas are all in there, and people are so busy,
Sure.
including ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
any success stories thus far? Any long-term relationships?
Oh, in general?
Yeah, in general. Any engagements? Any?
We did have one engagement, but then they decided to hold off. We have one couple still dating from the summer, a couple couples still dating from the fall, and we have one couple who just became official for the spring.
Yeah.
So that's kind of exciting. But in a way, like, some people want to add, they want to know, like, is it successful because people are getting married? Like, is this really going to work?
That's not really the intention for it.
Like, our intention was to normalize dating and get people to go on dates.
Yeah.
And we sat down a couple nights ago and figured out just how many new connections, meaning a girl and a guy who didn't know each other, are sitting in front of each other. In the past year, 1,305.
Wow.
So
connections,
and who knows where God will take them.
And friendships.
Friendships. That's so true. That's so true.
We also do socials for them.
Mm-hmm.
Just the girls' socials and the guys' socials, and they've met each other, and friendship groups have formed and everything.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because
really
I think that was something we didn't really expect. And when we had the first orientations in the summer, both the girls' orientation and the guys, they were just so hungry for friendship. There was real loneliness, especially people who are working in the workforce, and if they didn't happen to go to college around here, maybe their college friends aren't here, and it was really eye-opening. So we're grateful to be able to offer that to them. And so definitely there's a whole group of girls that does crafting together that met through the little dates and other friendships with guys and everything. So
fantastic. Well, this has been great. Thank you both for coming on the show and to share all of this wonderful information about little dates and letting go of pressure and navigating kind of the modern dating culture. So if people are interested in learning more about Little Dates Club, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
We have an email.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What is it?
littledatesclub@gmail.com.
All right. littledatesclub@gmail.com. We'll put a link to that in the show notes so that people can access that. If they have any questions, they'll send them directly to you.
Wonderful.
All right. So Maria y Darenys, final question I ask all my first-time guests. So whoever wants to go first. Yeah, the dreaded. You've listened to the show. You should know.
That's true.
What gives you hope?
What gives me hope is knowing that people want in-person connections still. They want to be in person so much that they'll let two crazy moms that they don't know set them up on a bunch of blind dates.
Yeah.
That gives me hope.
Yeah, that's really good. And what gives me hope, because I've been thinking, because I do watch your show, I've been thinking, and I thought, what really gives me hope is these young people. Like, they give me a lot of hope. They are still, despite the culture, despite having to swim upstream so much and all the disintegration of everything, they're still out there. They still want their person. They are still willing to sacrifice and go through the hard stuff to find somebody to be on this great adventure with. So that gives me a lot of hope.
Amen. Amen. That's exactly right. I mean, just still seeing people pursuing relationships, people not being so jaded that they've given up. And that's not the case that's not the case in the culture as a whole. We could see there's a recent article by the Wall Street Journal that really highlighted the trend among women specifically, and how they're just not getting married anymore and have no desire to, because their career is sufficient for them and they're independent and they don't need another person. And that's kind of where we're at as a society. So you're right to look at people and say, even if I am putting a lot of pressure on myself, even if I'm, whatever the quirks or the foibles might be, I'm still trying. And the fact that people are still trying is a really hopeful thing to hold on to. So, well, bless you both. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and keep up all the great work you guys are doing.
You too. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having us.